Today, we dive back into the wonderful world of mainstream gaming journalism, as pcgamer has released a wonderful article titled, "I wish 343 would leave Halo the Master Chief Collection alone." Basically, this article, and we'll go through it, it's an article written by one of the freelancers over at pcgamer, and she kind of just talks about how she thinks that the additions to the Master Chief Collection and the added updates are awkward and underwhelming, and it actually hurts the experience of Halo. Now, this is an argument that has already come up in the community a little bit, as some people haven't liked the new skins or don't necessarily love the new maps, and so we'll kind of address that as we go, because it is a somewhat valid concern, but her way of addressing it I think is pretty dumb. So before we dive too deep into this article, I do kind of want to mention that this writer, if you pull up her blog, you see that she does freelance writing for a ton of different gaming websites. She makes games, and apparently she's a competitive Splatoon 2 player. So what I'm pointing out by this is when you read her blog blurb up at the start, this is something that she wrote. None of this even mentions Halo, right? She has written a review for Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary when it came to PC, but as you read through that article, you can tell that she's not some avid CE player or even avid Halo player. She points out things like not every weapon in the sandbox having a role, like the plasma rifle and needler, which if you've played CE, that isn't really true. Both of those are in the campaign, both of those definitely have a role, and if you're playing through something like Legendary, the plasma rifle is fantastic for taking out elite shields. The needler is also pretty good for killing elites because it can super combine them. You can tell that while she may be a Halo fan, she's definitely not a hardcore Halo fan. Now, that's totally okay. Not everyone needs to be a hardcore Halo fan, but this is where I bring up the point that if you're not really an avid Halo fan, and in her article, this article, she mentions that she has weekly Halo sessions with her friends where they play custom games and maybe they venture into matchmaking if they feel fit. If that is your current Halo gameplay, then I would argue that the updates that 343 have been adding aren't for you. If you're not the one that's playing daily, multiple times a week, then the new content shouldn't even really affect you, right? If you want to play custom games with your friends like she says she likes to do, like custom games with your friends. None of you have to unlock the new armors. None of you have to use the new armors. None of you have to use the new skins. It's literally you're off on your own playing custom games with your buddies, just like you would back in 2007. Literally none of the new content that 343 has added should even affect you. If anything, you should be happy that they've added new game modes and new maps, like the recent addition of Escalation Slayer, which is a gun game for Halo and it's pretty fun, or they've added Waterfall, which she actually specifically references and says that isn't just a bit ugly, it's a bad map, flat and boring, and missing the deliberate focus of the rest of Halo 3's arenas. Now, I'm not going to tell you that Waterfall is the best map in the world, but I don't think it's ugly. If you look at Waterfall, it's probably graphically one of the best looking maps in Halo 3, because when I first looked at Waterfall, I honestly thought I can't believe they got this working in Halo 3's engine. Now, with the caveat that it still doesn't work properly, and that's why it's not in matchmaking, because it has a lot of performance issues. But her concerns about being a bad, flat, boring map, has she not played Halo 3's map pool? Don't get me wrong, Halo 3 has some absolutely amazing maps and some of my favorite maps of all time, but Halo 3 also has some absolute duds for maps too, and so I wouldn't say Waterfall would be the worst map in the entire map pool. It's probably not on the higher end, but it's really hard to reach the heights that Halo 3's map pool has reached. But for 343 to add a new map to a 13-year-old video game, and for you to complain about that, it just dumbfounds me. Especially right now, it's not even in matchmaking. You literally don't have to play the map if you don't want, and I'm gonna bet that when it does get added to matchmaking, it's probably only going to be in social. So you get it maybe 1 out of every 10, 1 out of every 20, 1 out of every 25 matches when you factor in the fact that every other Halo map's gonna be in the map pool along with Forge maps. This is gonna be a map that you are rarely going to see in your day-to-day Halo experience unless you're deliberately playing it in custom games. So to have someone from a mainstream journalism website shit on the map as if 343 adding this map to the game is a bad thing, I just don't understand it. She does point out that to 343's credit, all of these additions, including the skins, are entirely free, but they crack the time capsule, bringing with them a sense that 343 doesn't entirely know what it wants to do with the collection. I'd argue this isn't true at all. They clearly know what they want to do with the collection. They give us a roadmap. they add new content to the collection, and they reuse a lot of Halo Online content because it's already made. That's been pretty clear that that's been the direction for months now, and if you haven't been able to pick up on that, I think that's on you. Now, she does say, and I will agree, that a lot of the new armors are pulled from Halo Online and kind of have that Halo Online, Halo 4 aesthetic. Now, that is an aesthetic that not everyone is a fan of, and I totally get that, and she does make a decent point explaining that. But she also points out that there is a toggle now to turn all of this stuff off if you don't want it. Originally, when this stuff was added, the community got up in arms because you couldn't turn this stuff off. Now, this article did not come out when you couldn't turn this stuff off. This article came out last week, and that toggle to turn off all these skins and the weapon skins has been out for a long time. So to me, we have a person here that is maybe upset because they don't want to have to unlock things, or I guess is just not a fan of some of the armors and has decided to write an entire article about it, when her gameplay style, self-admitted, playing custom games, occasionally playing matchmaking, would allow her to completely avoid all of the new content. She doesn't have to play Waterfall, never has to see any of the new armors or skins if she turns the toggle on. I guess I don't get what the point is. Just because the game has a battle pass unlock system doesn't mean that you have to do it, especially if you weren't a fan of the armors and skins in it anyway. Just ignore it. There's nobody at 343 forcing you to complete every season of the season pass. She does reference that, like I said, all the seasons are completely free, and I don't think she gives that enough credit. 343 could have easily added these season passes and charged money for them, but they are doing them completely free of charge and giving you a toggle to turn them all off anyway. So they're literally just additional content for people that want them to enjoy, and content that is completely ignorable by people who don't like it. I guess my point is, I just don't understand how people can be against 343 adding new content into the game now. I understand when there wasn't a toggle and there was no way to turn it off, but now you can literally turn it all off, and to me that's a perfect compromise. 343 is adding additional content for people that play this game a lot and they need and want new content. But if you play it occasionally and you don't like the new content, or even if you play this game on a daily basis and you don't like the new content, you can turn it off and completely ignore it. Not only are we getting new maps, which is something that I would have never dreamed of, that I find pretty cool, it excites me to get new maps and new game modes in 2021 for Halo 3, Halo Reach, Halo 4, etc. because I like new content. We're also getting all sorts of quality of life updates that MCC didn't used to have, and that the OG versions of Halo 3 didn't have. Now, if you wanted to play Halo like it was back in 2007, that is going to be harder since that is being shut down, but let's be real. Playing Halo 3 from 2007 means playing in 30 FPS, if that at times, because it dipped below, playing on less than 720p resolution, playing on lowered crosshair, which I understand some people like, but a lot of people prefer centered crosshair, and a whole slew of other things that the MCC has actually updated and fixed. Now, is MCC perfect by any means? No, but it does a fantastic job of allowing people to play these classic Halo games in a somewhat modernized way. I don't want to play Halo 3 at 30 FPS and less than 720p resolution. And even though I'm sure someone out there would, I think it's much cooler to see games like Halo 3 continue to get support and be supported like a shoddy live service model, as she calls it. I don't know, I guess I just don't even see the point of the article. She herself points out that you can turn off the new armors and the new skins, but still for some reason just doesn't like the new content being added. To me, this just seems like an article that was written for the headline. I wish 343 would leave Halo the Master Chief Collection alone, because that is a headline that probably got a lot of clicks. The article itself doesn't even have that much meat to it. It really could be summed up in almost 2 sentences. I don't like 343 adding new skins, new armors, new game modes to the game. I think they're bad, but there is a toggle to turn them off. That is pretty much the entire article. And if I can sum up your entire article in about 2 sentences, it probably doesn't need to exist. Anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for the video. I saw this article the other day and it just kind of irked me. I know not everyone in the Halo community is a fan of the new skins and everything, but I think it's pretty unrealistic to act like everyone hates them or that 343 is ruining these games by doing this stuff. And yeah, so I just kind of wanted to address it. If you guys want to catch me live, I stream over on Twitch a few times a week, so follow me over there, or you can follow me on Twitter. With that said, I'll see you all next time.